All right, you guys. I want to pick up where we left off with our notes on measurement, so that we can get those finished today. And so I just kind of want to walk you through some of the stuff. I know you guys left off with this slide right here, and you guys completed this slide when we did our notes on Thursday and Friday. But I just kind of want to make sure everything's kind of clear because this is a lot of information uh, on something that you aren't exactly familiar with. So the so real quick, just a reminder uh, with the dial caliper, this is what kind of what it looks like and all that. Um, but and then this is kind of the information on how to use it for measurement. It says that when you read a dial caliper, you use decimals instead of fractions. I know we talked about the ruler and how it can get to as small as a 16th of an inch in its measurements. Those are fractions, but for dial calipers, we refer to the measurements in decimals. And that's because basically it allows you to kind of easily add up the whole number, the tenths place, hundredths place, and thousandths place with the decimal number when you're looking at the dial caliper. And that'll make more sense when I give you some practice with this. But then it says identify the whole number on the measurement bar using the scale's reference edge. So if you remember, the reference edge is this little thing right here. Okay, and so you use that to determine the whole number and the tenths place value. And it says, and this one's really important, it says, be careful if the number but not the hatch is shown, meaning that little line, that mark, you don't count the number. And you use the dial to determine the hundredths and thousandths place values for your measurement. Okay, so what that all means. Okay, it'll show you real quick here, a little brief. There's no sound to this video, but it just kind of shows you how this dial caliper is utilized, and then we'll actually do some together. But oops, let's go here. Play. There we go. Okay, so they're showing how to get that aligned. Again, you won't need to mess with that, but shows that measurement. There's the reference edge. Okay. So, sorry, I meant to pause that. I don't know why it keeps skipping ahead. But, so again, if I'm able to pause when it's zoomed in like that. Okay, so where they're getting these numbers is with the, so they got the whole number 1, they got 0.7, and then 51 here. Okay, and the way they got that value is here's the reference edge, and they look at these whole numbers, these larger numbers with the larger hatch marks. Okay, and the one nearest the reference edge, the whole number nearest the reference edge that you can see is the number 1. Okay, so that's why they got the number 1 there. And then they got 0.7. Okay, because if you look after the number 1, you have your tenths places. You have one, this would be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. Okay, and so you see that 0.7. This is the decimal. This 7 represents 0.7. Okay, and if you remember, the thing that said be careful is if you can't see the hatch mark for that number, okay, you don't count that number. But truth is, you can kind of see the hatch right there. You see that hatch mark right there? That would be after the 7. You can see it. So you count the number 7. Now, if that was not, if you couldn't see that hatch, you would then have to go to the 0.6. But since you can't see that hatch mark, it's 0.7. And then you look at the dial for the hundredths and thousandths place for the decimal. Okay, and so this, we look at that dial, it's 50, kind of looks like it's right there on 51. And so that's why you get the 0.051. And then you add all of that together to get what your total measurement is. And so that's why in this video, pause it, you get 1.751. Again, the 1.7 you get by looking at the reference edge and looking at the hatch marks. Okay, you got the 5.1 by looking at the dial there. Okay, and you add them together. So that's that as far as reading it. Again, we'll look at some more with each other. So looking at this one, okay, again, you'll have a whole number, then decimal, and 3 decimal places. Okay, the tenths, hundredths, and thousandths place. Okay, so if you remember, here's the reference edge that you look at. Okay, and then that reference edge gives you the whole number, and and that whole number is going to be one of these numbers, the larger ones with the longer hatch marks. Okay, and whichever one is closest to that reference edge. So in this case, it's the number 5. Okay, and then you'd get, in addition to that, you get the tenths place. Okay, and that's all these smaller numbers with hatch marks. Okay, and so we look here and we get the number 4. And the reason we get 0.4, even though we can see the number 5 right there, is we cannot see the hatch mark that comes after the 5. So since that's covered up, okay, that means we have to go to the 4. So it's 5.4 as my whole number and first decimal. Okay, and then remember, the dial gives us the second and third decimal place value, okay, or the also known as the hundredths and the thousandths place. So we look at the dial. It looks like it's pointing at 91, so we put 91 right there. Okay, so that gives us an answer of 5.491 inches. Okay, and so I want to reiterate, like, as far as that, when you reference that and you try and see if you can see the hatch mark, another little cheat you can do is kind of, if you can't tell if you can see it or not, look at the dial. If the dial is right at 0 or somewhere shortly thereafter, that means you can see the hatch mark. If you look at the dial and it's kind of in the 90s, that means you can't see it yet. Okay, so the dial can kind of help give that away as well if you can't figure out if you can see the hatch mark or not. Okay, so that takes us then to this one. Okay, again, always remember the reference edge tells you the whole number and the tenths place, and then the dial gives you the hundredths and the thousandths place. Okay, so in this case, okay, I'm looking, the nearest whole number, I've got 3, I've got 4. I can see the hatch mark for the number 4, so it gives me that. Okay, clearly I'm not going to be able, I can't see any decimal after that 4, so that's going to be a 0. Okay, and then as far as this goes, I look at the dial. Let's see here, and it's 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. So 4.044 inches is what this dial caliper shows. Okay. In this case, okay, see here, I'm looking for my whole number. There's 0. It doesn't get to 1, so 0 is my closest whole number, so I put that down. Okay. Then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can see 7, but can I see the hatch? I don't know. So let me look at the dial. It's right on 0, so that must mean I'm right on that hatch mark. Okay, so I'm going to give myself that 7. And then since I'm on the 0 there, that means 0, 0. So this is 0.7 inches shown on the dial caliper. Okay, as far as this measurement goes, the whole number, okay, I see a whole number 0, I see a whole number 1, okay, I don't see any 2, so it must be the nearest one is the number 1, so it's going to be 1 point something. Okay, I'm looking here, I see 3, so is it 1.3? But can I see that hatch? I think I can, but I can't quite tell, so I'm looking to look at that dial. It's right on the 0 again. So yes, I count that 3. Okay, and then it's going to be 0, 0. Okay, so 1.3 inches. And as far as this one, okay, look again, reference edge. I've then got, I can see the 6, I think. Can I see the hatch mark? I'm not sure. So let's look at the dial. It's on 0. So this one's actually 6.000. Okay, so that would be 6 even, so 6 inches. Okay, so the next few videos that you're going to be shown here are it's just kind of showing how you would use the dial caliper with like using the exterior measuring jaws. It's also going to show you how to use the dial caliper with the interior measuring jaws, as well as the depth measuring rod. And so I just kind of want to show you these. It kind of shows you exactly how you would use them. So imagine you want to find the exterior diameter of that mug. You'd expand it, put like that, pinch the jaws on the outer edges of the mug, and then read what it says. And then using the interior, you would actually flip it over and then place them inside the mug and pull them apart until they're up against the edges and read what it says there. And then as far as measuring the depth, the way you do that is you pull that rod down until it hits the bottom and then see what it says it's measuring at on there. Okay. So that's it for the notes, but I just kind of wanted to walk you through those. You're going to get after this a video where you have to try answering and reading a dial caliper on your own and giving the correct measurements that the dial caliper shows. So feel free to continue to reference these notes as you practice.